Hello and welcome, I'm Wolfie and today we're gonna talk about hunters in TBC. What to look for, how to play one, what to focus on, and so on. For the first, hunters are reliable and pure damage dealers. In TBC it's one of the top classes in terms of DPS and sustainable damage. Many guilds I have been playing with tend to use up to 3 or even 4 hunters per raid, depending on boss encounters, about which we will talk in one of our future episodes. PvE wise, there are 2 viable specs to play as. First being of course the Beast Mastery, where agility, haste and pet are playing a major part, and second is Survival Hunter spec. Survival is not as pure DPS as Beast Mastery, but it's more of a support spec. Surely Survival can show some nice numbers once it is endgame geared, but that's a long way ahead. If you are in a doubt which race to pick for your hunter, I will break down faction by faction. I figured that the easiest way to present to players is to crunch down numbers to basic stats. Alliance has Dwarves, Draenei and Night Elves, which can be hunters. Considering that base stats won't change, here are the numbers. Dwarves have 19 agility and 19 intellect, which makes them kind of balanced in way of spec choice. But I'd argue that Dwarves hunters are far better in PvP, cause with 4.7% crit chance but high 11 power plus stone form, in PvE Dwarf hunters won't squeeze that much damage. I'm saying this because of the fact that crit chance is almost useless in PvP, but power is quite useful. Apart from stone form, other racial traits are 1% increased crit chance with guns. It goes well with engineering and if you're going to play with such weapons. But in TBC, bows are a far better choice. All bosses' loot drops are bows, especially throughout endgame content. Beside these, dwarves have increased frost resistance. In TBC it's useless, but find treasure is fun for leveling. Although since it's racial trait, I guess it's way more useful on rogues. Second are Draenei. With 20 basic agility and 21 intellect, they are already ahead of dwarves. Naturally, from agility comes high crit chance as well, 3.99%, but power is a bit lower, counting only at 12. I would recommend playing Draenei as a hunter if you cannot decide what spec you want to play. It does have a racial heal trait, Gift of the Naru for self or pet healing, but also 1% of hit rating, which is a huge boost to party and hunter itself. Being able to pre-endgame gem agility instead of hit rating is quite an advantage. If you choose to play it as a Beast Mastery, you'll get decent basic agility and opportunity to gem more of it. 12 power is higher than dwarves, so it can out DPS it on paper. If you choose to play it as a survival support, the reasons are still the same, but at least you can get an explanation for doing as much DPS as you're doing. Stat that gives Draenei hunters that much needed push in terms of PvE is increased shadow resistance. Not much, but it's still way better than other hunter classes. I'm saying this because many bosses in this expansion are using shadow damage as primary magic source. We will talk about it more in one of our next episodes. Last racial trait is plus 5 points to the jewel crafting profession, which is also a small push due to endgame jewel crafting necklace being BIS for any hunter. Night Elves are the last of the Alliance hunters. Their basic agility is whopping 28 and intellect is average 20 points. Looking at this, Night Elves already have a huge advantage over the previous 2 races. But if we add a crit chance of 6.26% due to high agility, you get pretty nice stats. But that's not all. Basic power is also 20. This means that in terms of PvE and terms of either spec, Night Elves will always out DPS Dwarves and Draenei on paper. But that's as far as their edge goes. Out of racial traits, they have next to useless nature resistance of 10 and increased dodge by 1%, which might be useful in PvPing. Oh, and they have a cool whisper form. But that means you accept Death Noob. If you want to min-max your performance, I'd recommend going for Night Elf still, but your choice is your own, depending which race you prefer and what are you gonna use your hunter for more. Now let's move on to the Horde hunter races. Here we have Mighty Taurens, Agile Trolls, Elusive Blood Elves and Green Orcs. Taurens are huge characters, but their base agility is only 18 and intellect is 15 points, meaning their crit chance is low at 3.42%. Funny enough, a huge character doesn't have more power. Taurens are clocking only at 10 points. Even though Taurens are one of my favorite races in the game, their hunter game isn't strong. Out of racial traits, they have increased herbalism, increased nature resistance by 10. Beside that, more important traits are stun, aka war stomp on 2 minute CD, and plus 10% increased HP, aka endurance. What I like about Tauren hunters, especially male, is how big the bows look. Trolls are looking better already. Base agility is 25 and intellect 16 points, which means that their crit is abysmal 6.41%. Power is also not weak at all, at 17 is way stronger than Taurens. Even though intellect is low at base stat, trolls are very good at survival hunters, but not too bad as a BM either. Racial traits of trolls are interesting ones. First one is plus 5% damage done to beasts, which is awesome for leveling and farming, along with skinning. So having a skinner troll, especially hunter, is awesome. That goes very good with 10% increased HP regeneration, even in combat state. Trolls have an awesome racial called berserking. How it works is simple. Depending on amount of HP you are missing, your haste is increased by up to 25%, meaning more haste plus berserking equals way more haste. Using it smartly outside of rapid fire and bloodlust buffs, since all three are increasing haste by percentage, is giving trolls uptime on increased DPS. And for the last racial trait, trolls have increased 1% crit chance on bows and thrones, which means that trolls have the highest base crit chance out of all races on both factions. Blood Elves might not be one of the best choices, but here are the numbers, so figure for yourself. Base agility is at high 25 points, and intellect is also high 24 points. Crit chance is starting at 5.41%, which is quite awesome. Power is second highest out of all races on both factions. Just like trolls, it's at 17. So why are the Blood Elves not preferable, as you may ask? Well, the racial traits are quite bad. It has increased enchanting by 10. Sure, that's a nice thing to have, but as a hunter you won't keep it as your endgame profession. Second racial trait is plus 5 to all resistances, which is quite bad honestly. I'd always prefer 10 points in one resistance than 5 in every. I guess Blizzard tried to make Blood Elves all-rounder in that regard. Third racial trait is a mana tab plus Arcane Torrent. Mana tab stacks up 3 times. Upon using Arcane Torrent it can give you a decent amount of mana, plus it can silence nearby enemies for short durations. Arcane Torrent has quite a long CD, while mana tab is coming up every 2 minutes. Doesn't sound too bad, but not quite useful for range classes. And that's it, they don't have any fourth racial trait. Orcs are the last race out of Horde Hunter capable races. On paper it looks like this, 20 agility and 17 intellect base points. Naturally it gives 3.99% crit chance. Power is 12 points only, sadly. By this point Orcs are only better than Taurens. But unlike Blood Elves, Orcs were quite lucky in the way of racial traits. First one is increased pet damage by 5%, which is huge. Makes Orcs awesome BM hunters. Second one is Blood Fury, which gives a fixed amount of attack power per level, starting at 6 at level 1. At level 70, this racial is literally a third trinket at 2 minutes cooldown. Makes it very OP out of all hunter races. 2 awesome racials weren't enough, so Blizzard gave them a third one, which increases the chance to resist stun by 15%. Surely as a range class you would think it's not useful, but you're wrong, because one word. Kiting. So to recap this whole talk, you play as a race you enjoy. But if you want to min-max, I suggest to go for Orcs, Beast Mastery and Trolls as survival for Horde faction. And for Alliance, you want to play as either Night Elf as first choice and Draenei as second choice. But keep in mind that Draenei has that sweet 1% hit rating for party. And there were situations where my guild would take Draenei's survival just to boost other 2 hunters to maximum. Now that you have picked your desirable faction and race, let's skip everything up to level 70 and give you the most simple talents layout optimized for dungeons, raids, and solo farming and killing stuff. To explain some stuff about how hunters work before we go to desirable stats. Improved aspect of the hawk gives you a chance to increase haste by 15% for 12 seconds, which is one of the most important talents in the tree. Make sure to pop any haste increasing spells or consumables right after this proc. 1 point in improved endurance is because of the requirements for the 3rd level of the talent tree. 1 point in swiftness is because of optimizing. And trust me, the second or 2 before your pet starts attacking means a lot when you min-max. You can go around this by pre-positioning your pet where boss will be tanked, or just using dash on your Ravager. Second best option is 2nd point in improved man pet, but let's face it, 1 point is more than enough. Choice is yours. Rest of the talents are pretty self-explanatory. And now these are survival hunter talents, also optimized. You can switch a few points around if you like, but most important are improved mark, especially for raiding, and expose weakness for survival tree. As for stats, you want to prioritize getting to 9% of hit rating, because you want to be able to score all the shots in order to have full uptime on your DPS. While getting to 9% of your hit rating, you want to go all for agility, as it increases your overall attack power and increases your critical chance. Hunters have talents that increase your critical damage a bunch. Since using only 2 abilities for daily dealing damage is not gonna be enough, you absolutely have to rely on critting way more often, which is achievable with stacking agility like cray. After agility, the stats you want to look for are literally what you get from agility. Attack power and crit, that is. After that, the next in line is intellect, cause face it, once you run you gotta switch that boring Viper aspect and your DPS is gonna feel it. Moving on to gear examples and pre-raid beast items, I will just list down 1 or 2 for each slot, just to showcase what kind of pieces you wanna go for. First being headpiece. Beast Lord Helmet drops from Mechanar last boss and has nice stats, agility, stamina and intellect, plus attack power, and over that it has meta socket and 1 red socket slot, which means agility gem and 2 MP5 from socket bonus. Leather counterpart is Helm of the Claw from the Warlord Hideout quest in Zangarmarsh dungeons. It has agility, stamina, attack power and welcoming hit rating in early game, but this helmet is, as the name suggests, more convenient for feral druid bears. Necklace. Choker of Vile Intent is what you want to aim for, but until that point you can do just good with Earthen Mark of Raising, which you can get from Gurok the Usurper Negron quest. One very OP and hidden, maybe even expensive to make, is Necklace of the Deep. According to many survival hunters I knew back in the days, it's even endgame best for you as a survival, of course. Shoulders. Go for Beast Lord Mantle. Shouldn't be too hard to get since you will do Steamwalls and last boss, Warlord Kalitresh, for attunement quest chain, if it's gonna be the case. 2 sockets are very welcome for some agility. Forced bonus of this set is quite OP, so you do wanna go for it. Easiest cloak to get is Delicate Green Poncho from Nagran quest called Bring Me the Egg. Beside this, you won't make mistake with any cloak that has either crit chance, hit rating or pure agility on it. Chest piece can be very easy or very hard. You will have to wear same chest for several last levels until you either get lucky with breastplate of rapid striking BOE wall drop, maybe buy it on auction house perhaps, but beside that there is easily obtainable Laughing Skull battle harness from Temporis in Black Morass, and later on Beast Lord Cuirass from Warp Splinter in Heroic Botanica dungeon, which has 3 sockets and 4 agility from socket bonus. Bracers. Spy Mistress's wrist guards are decent and easily obtainable from the Soul Devices quest in Ocean Dawn dungeons. Later on you can update it with Nightfall wrist guard from Heroic Epoch Hunter in Holisbred Foothills dungeon, and maybe even if you farm Exalted Rep with Ogre Law for Shardbound bracers later on. Gloves. Third piece of Beast Lord set, Beast Lord handguards that drop from Warchief Kerrigat Bladefist in Shadow Halls, but until then you can use any quest reward with agility and hit rating. For example, Gloves of Netherstalker from high level Netherstorm quest dealing with Overmaster. Belt. There are 2, I suggest to take both in case you need few points of hit rating. First one is Girdle of Ferocity from Heroic Murmur or Girdle of Death Dealer from Heroic Ionis in Black Morass. There isn't an exact belt I can suggest to go for until then, but Eva's strap from Cipher of Damnation second fragment isn't that bad to have. Legs. If you need to finish Beast Lord set, go for Beast Lord leggings. If not, there are some better ones with the 3 socket slot each, like Emerald Scale Greaves from Heroic Captain Scarlock. If you want filler until then, there are nice Cleft Hoof leggings as a quest reward from Blaze Edge Mountain quest called Showdown. Boots are a little bit tricky, since there are a few choices depending on what you need, agility or hit rating. For example, there are fell leather boots with bunch of hit rating and 2 sockets, really good. And then there are boots of Endless Hunt from Heroic Warp Splinter in Botanica. I suggest to have both again, but until then you can wear Felbur hide shoes from third fragment of Cipher of Damnation. Rings. You can use double True Strike rings, which are wall drop. Can't be a bad choice. If you don't have them or you can't buy them, you can use Slayer's Mark of the Redemption from Shadowmoon Valley questline called Dissension Among Ranks, or Band of Anguish from News of Victory quest from the same territory. Beside these, any ring with attack power, agility or hit rating will be useful. Please avoid the rings with strength. Trinkets are straightforward. You will use Bladefield's Breath from Hellfire Elite quest, Overlord for Alliance and Cruel's Intention for Horde. After that you want Abacus of Violent Odds from Mechanar last boss, and Hourglass of Unraveler from Temporis in Black Morass. Once you can get Bloodlust Brook for badges, take it and use it with Hourglass. Quiver is being taken from an honored reputation with Consortium or Magar or even Draenei. Ammo is another expedition reward level of reputation. For bow, I suggest trying to buy Valano's longbow, BOE World Drop, or Don Santos' famous hunting rifle if you can. After that, next upgrade will be Marksman's bow for Tralmar or Veteran musket from Honor Old, both being exalted level of reputation. For melee weapons, the best choice is to go for polearm, either Tarok's Quill from Ocean Dawn quests in Shadow Calls or Sonic Spear from Murmur in Shadow Labs. If you are forced to use one-handers, you can go for any axe or rogue's sword that has agility, sockets, hit rating or attack power like Stellaris or Latros shifting sword. That circles our slots and items. Take one more look at each item suggested and get an idea of what you should go for. Gems should cover agility mostly. If you want to go for socket bonus, there is a purple agility gem for your blue sockets. When it comes to the professions, leatherworking and skinning are regular choices you can have as a nice, useful profession for crafting your own piece of gear or for your friends, guild, while having quite useful farming profession in order to make some goldies. As a hunter, especially, BM farming skinning is an easy life. When TBC hits endgame content, many players will switch to leatherworking and will just mindlessly buy leather off of auction house. Other alternatives would be engineering and mining, or jewel crafting and mining, but that tends to be either expensive or overcrowded. As for items you can get for engineering, look, those aren't too awful, but leatherworking items are far better than, for example, this. Along with two main professions, it's smart to train cooking as well, maybe even fishing if you're a masochist. If not for your own consumables, then at least to sell it. Varp burgers are your food to go for, or alternatively grilled mudfish. Leave attack power food for wannabe DPSers. Buzzard bites are easy to get for a pet. Elixirs are pretty straightforward. Elixir of Agility, Elixir of Mongoose, Elixir of Draenei Wisdom, Elixir of Mastery, and lastly Elixir of Major Mage Blood. Any combination you use won't be a mistake, depending on your playstyle. I used Major Agility and Draenei Wisdom mainly, and in the endgame I swapped to Major Mage Blood. It is very important to mention that Elixir of Demon Slaying is situational for demon bosses. Even though it's pure attack power, it's a vast number and will be a huge DPS boost. If you choose to go for Flask instead of Elixir, Flask of Relentless Assault should be your pick. Out of all other buffs and consumables, I can suggest Scroll of Agility for yourself and Scroll of Strength for your pet. Flame Cap for that fire proc, but beware as it shares cooldown with Hellstone. For your weapon coating, use Superior Mana Oil. If you are confused about why I would use so many MP5 buffs, it's about the constant upkeep of our DPS. Steady Shot is costing near 100 mana per shot. Hunter's Mark is also costing mana, especially in dungeons and 10-man raids. And above all that, Bestial Wrath is quite expensive. In some fights you will lose it twice or more times. Also, as a survival, using different rotation is quite mana intensive. Out of potions, you will want to use ideally cheap Fel Mana Potion. It's super good for hunters, alternatively Super Mana Potion and of course the Haste Potion when you are good on mana or along your Bestial Wrath. I won't talk much about the enchantments. By this point you will know enough to go for agility, where you can get it, dexterity for boots and attack power for pants. For headpiece you will need to grind Revered Reputation with the Cenarian Expedition. There are not many different types of pets you can use at max level, most important being Ravagers and Wind Serpents. Now there's a slight difference between these two. Wind Serpents are semi-physical, semi-castered pet, while Ravagers are pure physical when it comes to dealing damage, meaning their DPS is quite affected by debuffs on the target. I suggest getting both and leveling them up while farming, for example. Use your Beast Lore spell to find out which Ravager has Dash rank 3 and Gore rank 9. Usually you can find it both in a Ripblade Ravager in Northern Blaze Edge Mountains. Here, Wind Serpent needs to have Dive, any rank, and Lightning Breath rank 6. It might be impossible to find such a Wind Serpent, but you can find a low level that has Dive and then abandon that pet so you can have it in your Train Pet tab, and then just find Outland Wind Serpent that has Lightning Breath rank 6. As far as the bite goes on a pet, it's up to you if you want to have it on autocast or not. I personally liked it off of autocast, but only enabled it in exact situations. Take your pet to training dummy and check the numbers yourself. Hunter rotation isn't really rotation, it is a macro which is spammed to do DPS as a beast mastery. Even with lower haste, it's still very viable. One auto shot, one steady shot macro. I'll put it on a screen, but I'm sure you can find many variants anywhere on the internet or forums. Regardless, Make sure to put Hunter's Mark on the target and send the pet in. You can combine it in a separate macro as well, like this. I like to open with aim shot just to give the pet 2 seconds window to hit the mob a few times to get that starting threat. After that, spam macro. In case you are in a dungeon group, add misdirection to the tank before sending the pet in. Aim shot, distracting shot, and continue with the macro. In case you are soloing elite, pop Bestial Rat after sending the pet in. Outside of regular rotation, there are a few spells and abilities to address more in detail. Bestial Rat increases your DPS, so make sure you use it with any haste buff, such as Bloodlust, Rapid Fire, Haste Potion, etc. Also, it makes you and your pet immune to Fear debuff, so keep that in mind as well. For example, when fighting the first boss in Shadow Labs, Ambassador Helmo. Traps are your friends. Use them on a big pulse for either CC or some extra DPS. Rapid Fire is totally worth using, but never use it along with some other haste buff, like Bloodlust or Haste Potion. You will go way too deep in haste with your steady shots that will end up clipping with auto shots and vice versa, which will result in loss of the DPS. Use Feign Death on cooldown until you are confident you are way below tank on a threat meter. Be smart about it. It can save you a repair bill if you use it in the case of a wipe. You can use misdirection on your pet while farming every now and then. Distracting shot and arcane shot are very useful in kiting fights, like Lady Vash, where you can do a small maneuver of jump, turn, shoot, turn back and continue running away. As for Survival Huntress, rotation is only slightly different. Since you are missing talents that increase your casting speed, you will be left with a short time window where you will be able to use Arcane Shot and Multi-Shot, but be careful of sheeps. After all, Survival Hunters are there to crit a lot and apply exposed weakness on target. And there we have it. I think I covered most of the basic starter hunter information you need in order to start diving deeper into number crunching and min-maxing on your own. I choose not to talk about the equation of calculating how much attack power or crit chance you get from set amount of agility. TBC retail was a long time ago, and private servers were different from each other. Hunter can be a lot of fun to main in World of Warcraft. If not, then at least to have it as an alt. If I skipped anything, remind me in the comments, and if you want me to make another video about endgame gear, perhaps you can request it at the same place. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until the next video, bye bye.